This is Ian Morris with Light Reading for OrbTV, and I'm joined here today by Antonio Elizondo from Telefonica. Antonio, welcome. You're a very important person in Telefonica these days, leading the NFV strategy, and Telefonica's obviously been regarded as something of a front runner, I think, in virtualization. Can you tell me where things are up to at the moment? You have your big Unica project. What stage are you at with that, and what are the sort of plans for this year?
Yeah, definitely. We have started the deployment of Unica in live production in 4 of our different markets in last year. Mm-hmm. Okay, and for this year we have plans for extending Unica through all our footprint, excluding 2 different countries that probably will come later in 2019. Okay. And this is very good news because this proves that the technology that we are using is mature enough to consider to go into real production.
Okay, and what are the main goals of Unica? What is it that you're really looking to achieve with this project?
Well, the vision that we have is to be able to have a homogeneous and versatile infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this infrastructure will allow us to run all sorts of software-based functions, also called VNFs, virtualized network functions. Okay, and this will allow us also to automate much more. Okay, all the process associated to the creation of the network and also to the lifecycle management of the network services that we deploy.
Okay, and in terms of the virtualization of network functions, what stage are you up to with that process? You seem to be adding new virtual network functions all the time.
Yeah, really. Indeed, we have started with, let's say, few VNFs into these 4 different countries where we have deployed Unica. Mainly related with control plane functions, things like IMS, mm-hmm. Things like AAA functionality, things like DHCP, complex, simple things for understanding how all the infrastructure works, understanding the impact on the way to operate the platform and the way we are used to do the things. Okay, and for this year we are introducing many other functions, including, for instance, the Evo Packet Core, mm-hmm. Okay, and firewalls, load balancers. Indeed, I'm also responsible of the VNF certification program in Telefonica, and I have a queue of more than 60 different VNFs to certify.
Okay,
so
it's really going now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of virtualization, we hear about the challenges. Operators were concerned for a long time about things like interoperability, and the process was seen as quite difficult, virtualizing your network. What's been more difficult than you expected? What's been easier? Are we getting closer to overcoming some of those interoperability issues?
What is a challenge is, let's say, is having a common framework to, let's say, to onboard and deploy, the VNFs and to model the life cycle in, let's say, in a vendor-independent way. Mm-hmm. Okay. What we have observed in the industry, there are many vendors that have the vision of how the world should be, but they are producing their own solutions in a vertical fashion. Yeah. Okay, and this is something that at the end makes very difficult, the interoperability of things. Okay, this is why Telefonica, along other 10 service providers, we are pushing open source Mano as an initiative to have a common framework that makes easier for the VNF vendors to introduce their products, and also for the service providers to make them interoperate and to deploy them in an easy way.
So some operators have gone ahead and they've virtualized, but they've used technologies from one vendor, but this is a truly multi-vendor rollout that Telefonica is doing. And what are the main benefits you've seen in terms of things like cost savings and agility? Can you talk a little about that?
Yes, of course. For instance, one of the original motivations of NFV, and that was described in the original NFV white paper, that was launched in 2013, okay, where cost savings, including CapEx and OpEx, and a better way to introduce innovation, having a healthy ecosystem of suppliers, not only the big ones, but also startups and all sorts of suppliers. And what we are observing is, for instance, with the virtualization of the Evolved Packet Core, we are obtaining a very interesting cost savings, no, in the capex associated to the hardware. If I remember well, more than 50%.
Okay. So it's quite significant.
These are figures that we have announced publicly in several reports, so I'm not disclosing anything. But let's say that we are observing a tremendous impact in the hardware cost, and also an impact on the way we operate the networks. So we are able to introduce new services and do the onboarding, validating all the things in just a few days. This is something that is changing. No?
This is the service agility that operators have been trying to get to for a long time. Yeah, and in terms of, I mean, I think you mentioned automation at the start as well, which has become quite a big buzzword in the industry recently. In what ways does virtualization and the use of software-defined networks help you to automate operations?
Yeah, indeed, virtualization is, let's say, the means,
the means,
but the goal is the automation. If you automate things, that means that you don't have almost manual interventions. Manual interventions are expensive, are error-prone. So you are avoiding a lot of costs and a lot of problems.
Are you seeing that benefit as well so far in terms of being able to address faults and things like that without having to send people out?
We are seeing them step by step. With Unica right now, we have a, let's say, a simplified orchestration layer right now, because OSM will be the orchestration layer that will allow us to automate even further. But what we are able to do right now with Unica is building the network service, let's say, in an automatic way, creating all the networks, even physical networking we can configure in an automatic way. This has been a challenge for a lot of years, and this is something that we are seeing, that once that we certify DNF vendor with descriptors, we are able to replicate that in all the operations where we are deploying Unica. So this is a fantastic, let's say...
you can use resources in one sort of central location and make changes across a footprint.
Exactly. And especially in a company like Telefonica, where we do have a lot of different operations in different markets, different countries, this is something very useful.
And does that become more important when we get to things like 5G? I mean, I've heard it said that there's lots more configuration that needs doing on 5G networks. We have potentially billions of device connections with the IoT, so presumably automation plays a big role in terms of making that simpler.
Exactly. Indeed, part of my role is making sure that Unica, and concretely the orchestration layer through OSM, will be 5G ready. So what does this mean? How to deal with the lifecycle management of the so-called network slices, how to deal with the lifecycle management of the microservices. So there are different technologies that all of our vendors are starting to use, containers, Docker containers, for instance, Kubernetes as a way to orchestrate all of that. So we are, of course, trying to apply all of these technologies through OSM, and making sure that Unica will be ready for facing the future.
Well, thanks very much for joining me today, Antonio. This is Ian Morris with Light Reading for OrbTV.